Screams echoed throughout the cloud palace of Rainbow Dash's home. The filly startled wide awake in a cold sweat, terror surging through her veins. Nightmares, again, for the 7th time this month. And it was always the same one. The one with the cupcakes. Flashes of memory lanced through her head, wings being hacked off, then ripped from their sockets. Needles plunged into her beating heart. Adrenaline injected into her body to keep her wide awake and alert to the torture. The smell of her own flesh cooking, the sight of her own blood and gore spilling from her surgically incised belly. The mastermind behind her terror toying with those glistening organs like they were party favors. She knew in her heart that Pinkie Pie would never be capable of doing such a gruesome act. But that thought didn't help make the dreams any less vivid. The Pegasus pony sobbed openly, curling up in her blanket and rocking back and forth as her body trembled with fear. She hadn't told any pony about the dreams or the lingering feeling of steel-piercing flesh and blade-cutting bone. Over time, her work suffered because of the constant night terrors. They were so powerful that she was simply afraid of going back to sleep. Ponies wondered why she spent most of her days napping, in the open and in daylight. She could only rest in the shining brilliance of the sun, far from the shadows that haunted the darkness in her own mind. But even then, the black clutches of her fear-addled subconscious had begun to creep into that relative safety. Dash whimpered as tears streaked down her face, staining the fur on her cheeks as wide eyes darted around the darkened scenery of her room, and her breath came before hiccuping sobs. Her wings clung tightly against her form as paranoia began to clutch the edges of her mind. Shadows lurched and moved in her peripheral vision, routine now becoming distorted and echoing within her mind as adrenaline surged through her shivering form. This wasn't healthy. Her mind was slowly breaking under the horrors of her own subconscious mind. Things that no pony should ever even have the slightest thought about, chipping away at her psyche. She was starting to crack.
Rainbow Dash? Rainbow Dash! Hey, has any pony seen Rainbow Dash around?
Applejack trotted through the streets of Ponyville, looking high and low for the town's resident speedster pony. Bypassers just shook their heads and shrugged.
Oh, horse feathers. Figures that pony's nowhere to be seen when you really need her.
The cow pony grumbled and continued on through town, hoofbeats kicking up dust as she looked into the sky for the Pegasus pony.
Consarn it! Rainbow Dash, where in the wide world of Equestria are you?
A long yawn from the branches of the tree behind her met her answer. The pony in question dipping a head down and gazing at Applejack from an upside-down position.
What? Applejack? What is so important that you had to go and interrupt my napping?
The western pony stamped a hoof on the ground, scowling at the Pegasus.
Now you know just why I'm making a fuss and finding you. You said you were gonna bring a little rainstorm over the crops at Sweet Apple Acres nearly 2 hours ago. Instead, I find you out here, in this tree, snoozing your little behind off.
Dash gave a groan, slipping out of the tree and landing on her hooves, shaking her head. She appeared more disheveled than usual, her mane a mess, dark bags under her eyes from many sleepless nights. She looked pale, sickly almost, yet still tried to put on an air of cheeriness.
Yeah, keep your saddle on. I'll get it right now. Sorry and stuff.
As the Pegasus pony turned and spread her wings to take off, Applejack tilted her head to the side and gave a small frown.
Dash, are you feeling okay? You look a little under the weather.
Dash grumped, shrugging her shoulders as she gave her wings a little test flap.
I'm fine,
was the only response from the Pegasus. The cow pony behind her stepped forward, giving Dash's side a little nudge with her snout.
You sure about that?
Don't touch me! I'm fine. Honest, I just...
She nearly spilled the beans right then and there, but refrained. She couldn't take the chance that the other pony might think different of her, because she was being so scared out of her mind every night by some stupid nightmare. Her body gave a little shiver as Applejack looked on with concern.
Gotta go!
Before Applejack could say anything further, Dash was off like a rocket toward Sweet Apple Acres, leaving the cow pony to scratch her head in confusion.
That girl just ain't right.
Another terror-filled night. Dash laid curled upon the floor of her cloud home, blankets around her shivering form. It was worse this time. She'd been filleted open, set upon the dining table of the pink earth pony, as slabs of her own meat, dripping with her life fluids, were sheared from her flank, served to all of her friends, herself still somehow alive enough to be aware of the entire situation, hearing the laughter as they devoured her life form, as fork and knife dug into her innards, tearing her apart. She was nothing more than a slab of meat for her friends' enjoyment. Hiccups punctured through heavy sobs as the Pegasus pony clutched at her head. The visions of her nightmares had begun to engrave themselves into her memory. Every horrible detail, from the fiery pain of rent flesh to the sickening sound of innards being torn and ripped from her belly. She whined as she laid curled tightly upon the floor, sniffling as her tears gushed from her eyes.
Just leave me alone. Why won't you just leave me alone?
She hiccuped, rocking back and forth.
I don't deserve this. Just stay out. Just get out of my head, please. Just stay out of my head.
Fear turned to anger, Dash beating her hooves against her temples.
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
She wept openly now, grinding her forehead against the floor of her room, her hooves pounding and pounding at her head, bruising the flesh, as pent-up frustration and sleep deprivation erupted in an agonizing scream of rage and sorrow. Another night, another crack in the window. Every pony had noticed. It was in the way she walked, the way she talked. Her body language said it all. Gone was Rainbow Dash, that cheerful, brash speedster. She was replaced by some hollow shell. She drifted aimlessly over Ponyville, as weeks of interrupted sleep had taken its toll upon her. All of her friends knew that something was up, but none of them knew exactly what to do. She had pushed them away, lashing out like a wounded animal every time they tried to console her and plead for her to get help. Too headstrong, some would say. Too proud, others still. But none of them realized the gravity of the situation until that one fateful day. The day that Rainbow Dash finally snapped. It had been an unseasonable warm spring day in Ponyville, as every pony went about their business. Lyra and Bon Bon chatting it up beneath their usual table at the cafe. Applejack selling the first harvest from Sweet Apple Acres, as ponies lined up for those ruby delectables. And within Sugar Cube Corner, Pinkie Pie was busy darting to and fro in the kitchen, baking up a storm. She glanced at the clock every now and then, frowning each time, before the bell to the door finally rang. A haggard-looking Rainbow Dash entering the shop.
Rainbow! You're finally here! Oh, I've been so worried about you! You've been all mopsy-dopsy, so I thought I'd ask you to come visit me so I could make you feel extra super special and cheer you up. But then you didn't didn't show up when I thought you were going to, and I was all sad that you were going to stay cooped up in your house all day. But then you came, and now you're here, and now we can have some fun.
Dash merely looked at her blankly before shaking her head and stumbling forward.
Whatever, Pinky. What do you want me here for?
The energetic earth pony bounced about the kitchen, over towards one of the many ovens of Sugar Cube Corner, before pulling the door down, reaching in and pulling out a tray of puffy, fluffy cupcakes. She spun around, grinning widely as she showed the baked goods to Dash.
I made you cupcakes!
Dash paled. Her mind flashed back to the earliest of those nightmares, the most vivid, the most intense. A tray of cupcakes, tasting it, finding motor skills rapidly deteriorating, stumbling as her body shut down under the effects of some unknown drug. Pinkie Pie looming over her with that trademark grin, eyes gleaming as the world dimmed around her.
Now you take a nap.
Dash's vision became hazed as the world began to spin around her. She stumbled back, shaking her head and whispering under her breath.
No.
She backed up, eyes wide with fear as she shook her head violently, looking around frantically for an easy way out, or any way out. The window, the door.
No, I don't want him. I'm not gonna let you. Let me out of here. Let me out of here.
Pinkie merely tilted her head to the side quizzically. She set the tray down and lifted a few cakes out and plated them. She bounced over to the shivering Rainbow Dash and offered the plate to the Pegasus. Dash stared at them. They were the same color, the same kind.
Run!
A voice in her head said.
Run, you idiot! Run!
A hoof flashed out, smacking the plate out of Pinkie's hooves.
I said I don't want him! I know what you're trying to do! It's not going to work!
Pinkie Pie frowned at the discarded cupcakes, but in typical Pinkie Pie fashion, she just shrugged and went about cleaning them up.
Maybe you don't like avocado icing? That's okay. I made plenty more so we can make some to your liking. Is that okay, Dashi?
She glanced back, the Pegasus letting out panicked whimpering noises. Eyes fixated on the pony before her, her eyes nearly pinpricks, as fear and adrenaline coursed through her veins. She was pinned between Pinkie and the wall behind her, chest heaving with heavy gasps. Horror filled her mind, playing the scenes from her nightmares over and over again, of the saw rending off flesh, cutting through bone.
Say, Dash, why do they call it a hacksaw? It doesn't hack. Hacking is what I was doing with the knife. This is a saw. I don't get it.
Run! Get away!
The scalpel piercing her breast, dragging through her flesh down her groin, filleting her open like some sick sort of piñata.
In a few minutes, you won't be able to feel anything below your rib cage. Then you'll be able to stay awake and watch the harvest.
Move! Just get away! Get away!
She was hyperventilating by now, no longer seeing the longtime friend, but a horrific, sadistic butcher.
Aww, I thought you would have lasted longer. Oh well, it was really nice knowing you, Dash.
Do something!
And then she saw it, that shining sharp protector just sitting there on the table next to her. A voice within her mind whispered to her like a seductive lover, sounding so wrong, but so right at the same time.
Kill her.
Dash hesitated. Part of her wanted to scream, another to run, but yet another considering the actual request.
Kill her before she kills you.
Her mind was a maelstrom of conflicting thoughts. The Pegasus felt sick to her stomach, the beat of her own heart pounding within her head.
Take the knife.
She stared at it, hoof slowly stretching out, trembling as parts of her still ward, still tried to reason.
Take it. Take the knife.
Tears streamed down her face, but her hoof hovered over the handle of the tool-turned weapon, as if the last frayed strands of her sanity knew what was happening, knew that it was a fighting battle it was going to lose.
Take it!
She snatched it, holding it in front of her at Pinkie Pie with shaky hooves. Her ears splayed back against her head.
Just leave me alone! Please, Pinkie Pie! Just leave me alone!
Pinkie Pie looked at the knife being yielded by her friend for the moment, before giggling and bouncing over towards Dash, whose heart sank as the filly rapidly approached.
Oh, Dashy, you silly filly. You got me good with that one. Never one to turn down an opportunity to prank, huh?
She didn't think. Her body was acting on its own. A gasp. Pinkie Pie looking thunderstruck as Dash heaved, frozen in mid-strike. Pinkie Pie brought a hoof up to her cheek, dabbing at a wide cut, looking at her own blood-stained hoof.
Dash?
I told you! I told you to stay away! Why couldn't you just stay away?
Kill her.
No! She's my friend! I can't!
Kill her. And the hurting will stop.
Please! Please, Pinkie, just run! Oh, God, please! Don't make me do this!
Kill her. 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 Kill her.
Kill her!
What happened next was a blur, the memories fuzzy in Dash's mind. As Pinkie tried to make sense of what was happening, Dash let out a chilled mix between a wail and a scream, catching the earth pony off guard as the blade darted forward, slashing through her neck, severing vein and artery as the gout of crimson issued forth from the wound. Shock and surprise registered on Pinkie Pie's face as she gurgled, blood hemorrhaging from that wound, staining her pink fur with the red hue of her life essence. Again and again that blade struck out, Dash's speed not restricted to her flight as she plunged the blade into the filly with increasingly rapid pace, sobbing hysterically as she carved the squirming and flaying filly up, through breast, through bone. Pinkie Pie's struggles slowly faded as her blood was spilled onto the floor of Sugar Cube Corner's kitchen, pooling around her, splattering the Pegasus atop her with the hot red fluid.
Just leave me alone!
She screamed, fear turning into rage.
You couldn't just go away, could you? You just had to keep coming back!
Pinkie's eyes were wide with terror as tears streamed down her face, visage frozen in a mix of fear and anguish. As those slowly glazing eyes stared up at Dash, the strikes of the blade grew slower until the Pegasus finally plunged the implement deep into Pinkie's chest, spearing through the filly's heart and ending her party once and for all. Dash heaved for breath, limbs shaking as she looked down at her handiwork. Blood stained her fur and feathers, painting her a deep crimson, wearing the life force of her former friend like some sick outfit. She sobbed, letting out a wail of anguish as she realized the gravity of what she had just done. Her hooves wrapped around the butchered filly, holding tightly at the still warm corpse of her friend.
No! I didn't! Sweet Celestia, no! What have we done? What did I do?
Dash's body shook as her chest heaved with each gut-wrenching cry of anguish. She let go of Pinkie's body and let out an ear-piercing shriek of terror as she looked down at her own hooves. Blood and viscera coated them, dripping down through the fur, the scene straight out of a horror movie laid before her eyes. She skittered backwards, slipping in the pool of blood of her own creation, slamming cheek first into the pile of gore, before finally gaining purchase and dragging herself over to the farthest wall from Pinky's still form, her stomach retching in her as she emptied its contents upon the floor next to her. Her mind raced, thoughts running a mile a minute. Wide, terror-filled eyes stared at the scene made by her own hoof. Murder. She had just committed murder. She had mercilessly slaughtered one of her dearest friends. It was unheard of. No pony had murdered another in hundreds of years. Voices within her mind clawed and whispered to her.
She's dead. She's dead. What have you done? What have you done? You did this. You're a monster. Never forgive yourself. You did this. You're a monster. You're dead. You're a monster.
The world spinning around her as time seemed to stand still for her, the last vestiges of her sanity being plucked apart, one by one, until the final thread snapped. Hooves grasped at her head, matting her rainbow-colored mane down with blood, the Pegasus rocking back and forth in the bloodied kitchen as a crazed grin spread across her muzzle, humming disjointedly to herself.
Giggle at the ghastly. Snortle at the spooky.
Dash threw her head back, curling legs against her chest as forelimbs wrapped around them, psychotic laughter issuing forth from the speedster Pegasus as her world shattered around her, psyche and spirit broken and splintered.